There are things you already know, but when someone actually says it out loud, it hits way harder. And that's exactly what just happened. Mansoor Delane, now with the Kansas City Chiefs, dropped a line about the Baltimore Ravens that, let's be real, no fan wanted to hear. And the worst part? It's hard to argue with it. What makes this even more intense is the context. This isn't just some random rival talking. This is a guy who grew up rooting for the Ravens, and now he's on the other side. But he didn't stop there. What he said about this matchup reveals way more than it seems at first. And once you connect it to the recent history between these two teams, it hits on a completely different level. Think about this for a second. Mansoor Delane grew up a Baltimore Ravens fan. Not just casually, he genuinely connected with the team. And honestly, when his name started popping up as a potential draft target, it felt like the perfect storyline. The hometown fan who knows the culture steps in and contributes right away. It just made sense, and a lot of people bought into that idea. But everything changed on draft night. The team that called his name? The Kansas City Chiefs. And sure, that's the NFL. Things move fast. But what really stands out isn't just where he got drafted. It's how he handled it right after. He didn't try to hold on to that connection with Baltimore or soften the message. He came out and said it straight. I grew up a Ravens fan, not a Ravens fan anymore. To me, that hits harder than it might seem at first. Getting drafted by another team is one thing. Going out of your way to publicly say you've completely moved on? That's different. And look, it's part of being a pro. No one's questioning that. But when you put it into words like that, it lands differently for the people on the other side. And here's what makes it even more sensitive. He didn't just land anywhere. He landed with the one team that's been giving the Ravens the most problems in recent years. So this isn't just switching jerseys. It's going from a real connection straight into representing the biggest obstacle that team has faced. Up to this point, that alone would already be a compelling story. But what really shifts the tone is what he said next. Because it wasn't just about leaving his fandom behind. He brought up something that, let's be honest, hits a nerve. After making it clear he's no longer a Baltimore Ravens fan, Mansoor Delane took it a step further. And this is where everything really lands. Because it wasn't just about switching sides. He said something that instantly connects with anyone who's followed this matchup over the years. Here's the quote. We always could never get past the Chiefs. Simple, short, straight to the point, but heavy. And the toughest part? It's true. That's exactly why it stings. This isn't some cheap shot or outside noise. This is someone who used to follow the team closely, just saying what a lot of people already felt but didn't want to hear like that. To me, that's where the impact really comes from. When you hear this from an analyst or a rival, it's already uncomfortable. But when it comes from a guy who grew up rooting for the team, it hits differently. It almost feels like someone from the inside confirming a frustration that's been building for years. And don't overlook this detail. He said it now, as a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. So this isn't just a reflection on the past. It sounds like someone who's now part of the team that's been winning these battles, and fully aware of where Baltimore has come up short. From here, the conversation shifts. It's no longer just about what he said. It's about why it rings so true. Because that line didn't come out of nowhere. There's real history behind it, and it explains exactly why this matchup has been so tough for Baltimore. This is where it gets even harder to argue with. Because when you line up what Mansoor Delane said with the actual numbers, there's not much room for debate. This isn't opinion or exaggeration, it's reality. The history between the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs tells the same story. Overall, it's more losses than wins. And when you zoom in on recent years, that feeling only gets stronger. It starts to look like a pattern. And being real with you, that's what makes his comment hit so hard. It sums up years of frustration in one sentence. There's no way around it. Dig a little deeper and another layer shows up. The era of Lamar Jackson. Since he entered the league, he's elevated the Ravens, turned them into one of the most competitive teams out there. But against Kansas City, the results haven't followed. That contrast stands out. The team improved, but against this one opponent, the story hasn't really changed. To me, that explains a lot of the fan reaction. It's not just about losing. It's about losing repeatedly to the same team, even with a strong roster and high expectations. When that comes from outsiders, it's frustrating. When it comes from someone who used to follow the team closely, it hits different, and that's what makes the next part even tougher. Because this isn't just about losing. It's about how those losses happened. What really gets under your skin isn't just the final score. It's how these games slip away. When you look at recent matchups between the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs, one thing stands out. Most of these aren't blowouts. They're tight games, decided by the smallest details, and that changes everything. Because in a lot of these games, the Ravens are right there, going toe-to-toe with a real shot to win. But when the moment hits, something breaks. A drive stalls. A third down doesn't convert. One small mistake flips the outcome. And honestly, those are the losses that stick with you the most. The numbers highlight that even more. Several of these losses came down to one possession. So it's not about being outmatched. The team competes. They get close, really close. But they don't finish. And over time, that builds this feeling that something is always missing when the opponent is Kansas City. That's exactly why Delane's comment lands the way it does. When he says they could never get past the Chiefs, he's not talking about easy losses or total domination. He's talking about missed chances, games that were right there and slipped away. When that pattern keeps repeating, the conversation naturally shifts, because it stops being just about individual games and starts raising a bigger question about what has to change. A bigger question about what has to change. If you're enjoying this breakdown, smash that like button to help the purple flock grow. What Mansoor Delane said doesn't just stay in the past. It adds even more weight to any future meeting between the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. When someone sums up years of matchups like that, it becomes part of the narrative every time these teams face off again, and one detail shifts the perspective even more. He said all of this as a Chiefs player. This wasn't a neutral comment. This is someone now inside the team that's been winning these battles, pointing out exactly where Baltimore has struggled. That ties the past and present together in a way that's hard to ignore. Inside the Ravens organization, that kind of narrative doesn't just go unnoticed. The addition of Jesse Minter signals that adjustments are being made, especially in situations where the team needs better execution. And these are exactly the kinds of matchups where those changes have to show up. Timing also plays a role here. These teams don't meet in the 2026 regular season, which means the next clash could come in a much bigger moment. That alone raises the stakes. Because it won't just be another game, it'll carry everything. That's been building. All of this turns Delane's comment into more than just a quote. It becomes a reference point that's going to follow this matchup moving forward. This whole situation shows how one sentence can capture years of frustration. Mansoor Delane didn't say much, but he hit right at the core of what's defined Baltimore Ravens versus Kansas City Chiefs. This isn't just about a rivalry or big games. It's about a pattern that keeps showing up every time these teams meet. At the same time, there's a new chapter starting in Baltimore. Coaching changes, adjustments, and a clear sense that something has to give, because the Ravens have shown they can compete at the highest level. But there's still that final piece missing when it matters most. And that's exactly what makes this matchup feel so heavy every time. Now I want to hear from you. Did Delane's comment bother you? Or do you think he just said what everyone already knew? Do the Ravens finally change this story next time, or does it keep going the same way? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your take. And if you're a true Ravens fan and love keeping up with everything happening around the team, don't leave this video without sharing it with a friend who's just as passionate. They're definitely going to enjoy this. See those videos on your screen right now? I picked the first one especially for you, and the other is recommended by YouTube. Go check them out, and I'll see you in the next video.